Yes.
So, Amado, I know that you work a lot with people who wants to manifest a specific person, also shortened for SP. I know for myself that I didn't know what an SP was for a very long time, even if I started with the law of assumption quite a while ago. But I would love to hear from your perspective. You can start with telling what your definition is of an SP, and
Mhm.
also how do you um, what are your thoughts around the questions that you receive and the people that you help coaching and navigating around this topic?
Yeah.
Uh, tell me a little bit about
A specific person, SP, that term, to be honest, I came across it because I was reading about the law of assumption and I was interested in what is all these manifestation things about. And I had an interest specifically too, because my own journey with creating the love I wanted was one of the reasons why I was interested in the law of assumption. It wasn't the only reason, but that was one of them.
Mhm.
So I will say specific person is just maybe um, a specific love someone has in mind that they want to be with or they want to get back to, or maybe they don't even know specifically who that person is. They
Mhm.
just in general, they have in mind a type that they want to be married to at some point, or at least have some sort of romantic relationship with. That's
Mhm.
kind of the definition I would give when it comes to specific person. And questions I get around that, I get people who are like, yes, I get it. I can manifest amazing things in my life. I have
Mhm.
manifested amazing things in my life, whether it's money, maybe career, maybe even health, right?
Mhm.
Becoming healthier. But then the one question is, but manifesting someone specific, a lot of people think it's harder because we're dealing with someone outside of who we are, meaning or someone external to us.
Mhm.
And the question is, do they have a will, their own will? And if they have their own will, how can
Mhm.
I decide I want to be with this person and trust that they are also going to choose me
Yeah.
if they have their own will? I think that's probably one of the foundational, I would say, yeah, main
Mhm.
questions people struggle with.
Okay. So, yeah, while you're talking, I was thinking about, did you know about the law of assumption and SP and all that stuff before you manifested your specific person, or was it just
Mm,
Germany that you
that
came
was
to?
my journey. I came
Hmm.
across the law of assumption. And then because of that, before that, well, that's we probably need another episode around love and
Go ahead,
marriage
go
and
ahead.
my journey with that. But I can kind of sum it up a little bit,
Hmm.
right? I feel like this is a lot to unpack there. But let me give an example. I had as a Christian, I was in a Christian ministry for quite a long time, even while I was studying in a university that had nothing to do with, religion at all. I was
Hmm.
studying public policy, but I've always been involved in Christian communities as a leader, as a learner, and all that. And
Hmm.
one of my mentors at the time,
Hmm.
and she said back then, she said, Amado, every time you speak about marriage, I feel like you're thinking about it in a way where I see you crucified on a cross. Like you
Hmm.
think that's pretty much what marriage is going to be,
Hmm.
suffering and
Hmm.
crucifixion.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
was pretty much a vivid picture of what I probably thought about marriage back
Hmm.
then because of, again, what I've witnessed with my mom and dad and my uncles and aunties, not just,
Hmm.
at home, but in
Hmm.
my culture.
Hmm.
So that was, so that pretty much was the idea I had. Of course, I knew there were healthy marriages, right? I've
Hmm.
moving to the US, I've seen some of them, but I also knew some of them were not as fun as the ones I've witnessed back home. Uh,
Yeah.
Also, just to give a bit of a detail, I come from a culture where polygamy is allowed, right?
Mm.
People have multiple wives and things
Yeah.
like that. Well, my parents' generation and
Yeah, I
older,
get it.
not as
Hmm.
much by generation.
Hmm.
So that was the background I had it, but I knew God obviously created us to have healthy relationships. So intellectually and maybe even spiritually, I knew it was possible to have a good marriage. But I had a lot of questions and doubts. And from a Christian background, I was like, yeah, I guess I can pray for a good marriage, a good guy, but I have no guarantee. I don't know. I may or may not get it. But I wanted it too. A part of me wanted it. A part of me was like, yeah, who knows? That was me before I knew about the law of assumption. And that me too, I was interested in someone for many years. And the journey was when I was interested, he wasn't interested. When he was interested, I wasn't interested. So there was that game that we played. And before I came across the law of assumption, I remember just kind of thinking, okay, I got to decide what I want. Do I want marriage? And if I do I want to trust that I will get a good person and it's going to go well? I was asking those questions before. And also, what was the possibility of getting exactly who I wanted too, right? Do I have that? Will God answer me and give me exactly who I wanted?
What would you say shifted?
What shifted was I was just tired of repeating an emotional state that was painful. And it felt like I was half in and half out, which was playing out pretty much with the back and forth with that person. But it wasn't just that specific person. I think I met other guys that I may have been interested in. I think I was interested in, but that uncertain, and they also kind of acted like they were, right? So there was that back and forth there too. And I thought, wait, I'm not just repeating this with this one person, I'm repeating it with other people too. What is it about me that I keep recreating the same scenario with other people? And I'm the common denominator, right? Like, what about this is maybe on me? That was the shift. The shift was I was tired and of feeling the painful emotional thing. And I started noticing, oh my gosh, I'm the common denominator. Oh, snap. I used to blame it on guys. Guys were the ones that are A, B, C, D because of what I've seen growing up with my parents or even other uncles and cousins and stuff like that. But this time around, I was faced with, oh, what if it has to do with me a bit more than I've allowed myself to? What if it's not even God's fault? Because it was easy for me to go, I'm praying, why am I not getting what I want? And I was like, wait a second, what if it's me? And then that was a shift that got me to be honest, to search outside of the bubble of Christianity. At some point, I was like, okay, I need to explore with all my heart outside of the bubble. And that's when I came across the law of assumption.
I realized while you were talking that, you know what, there's always a point, a psychological point that we get to as humans where we just get fed up with pain. We get fed up with the pain, with the struggle, with the forcing. Like mentally, our brain is like, I can't do this anymore, and you just start looking for something else. And another thing that I love about what you said is that you realized I am the person. Every single story that I'm telling, it's me. And this is also what I love about the law of assumption. It's like the more you start using it, even when you don't use it, even when you don't use it consciously, like cognitively knowing that this is what I'm doing, it kind of proves itself. It opens up doors. You get out of your bubble, you get out of the state. So I love that.
I like what you just said. Even when we don't consciously use it, it's playing. It's always been there, because how would I have gotten to the conclusion without even knowing the law of assumption yet that something here is pointing back at me, because I'm the common denominator in every story that I didn't like with different people, right? So the law of assumption was there, and I was like, oh my goodness,
Exactly. But it's
Yeah.
also the fact that it opens up to a broader consciousness that there is
Mm-hmm.
only love outside of our own bubbles, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that we can
Oh,
actually choose that. We can choose to
yeah.
be finding love. But I find it quite interesting because I apparently have manifested my specific person. I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
This was a long time ago before I knew about the law of assumption. But I do know the fact that I also was at a point where I was kind of tired of uh, feeling alone and
Yeah.
forcing love to happen because I was dating this very frequently. And I just felt like every person I met was like, oh my God, this is not working for me. And I remember one friend told me, just write a list. Just write a list of all the qualities that you want him to have, that you also yourself know that you have. So it's not just about writing a list about this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. It's more like, okay, when I want that, what does it actually invoke inside of me, you know? So basically I wanted someone to be very spiritual, very down to earth, very stable within himself, and we could talk all night long and everything. And I also wanted him to be very handsome.
Mm.
So when it happened, I remember for me, I was kind of shocked. All I was actually rejecting him, like, oh no, not you, before I knew about the law of assumption. And I remember the day before I met him, because we met at a lecture. Uh, I remember I said, no more dating. Let's just pop up a champagne and toast to no more men. I'm done. I'm done. And I realized that that was me surrendering. I was surrendering to the fact that I might be alone for the rest of my life. And I'm fine with
Mm.
it. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. I'm because rather than having this cycle of pain of dating and breaking up, dating and breaking up, you know, and the lying and the cheating and all that. So, but when I really met him, I rejected him. I was like, no, not you, and I just move on, you know? But then, yeah, to make a story very short, we end up together. We have 2 kids now, and yeah, actually 4 kids, but that's another story. And
Yeah.
we've been together for 7 years, and it's not always easy. It's ups and downs. But it made me realize that was that the moment I opened up for love. What would
Mm-hmm.
you say?
Oh, yeah. But one of my favorite things that you said, I just love the fact that that story happened to you before you even knew about the law of assumption.
Mhm,
I think many people, when they come across the law of assumption, they feel like this is the magic wand to get the person they want in their life, right?
mhm,
Yes, it is an amazing tool. It's always been there before we knew about it.
mhm,
So I think it's so powerful that you have a story that brought you your specific person before you knew about the law and the techniques and all of that.
mhm,
And I have a story that came together after I knew about the law of assumption. And I
mhm,
think it's powerful for people to realize, especially in the law of assumption circle,
mhm.
that it's not the techniques, it's not the
Yeah.
100% knowing the law and the
Mhm,
details and the information
mhm.
that gets you the things you want in life.
Yeah.
It's already been happening
Mhm,
before that. And this is
mhm,
one of those things I love telling my clients and reminding my clients and say, this is something you've already been doing. Whether
mhm,
you are happy about the things you're getting or not, it's
mhm.
happening. And acknowledging you've always had this power, it's an amazing foundation to, okay, now that I know the information and I trust the power in me, I'm going to
Mm,
remember I am the power, not the tools that I'm using for manifestation.
mm,
So, and I think your story just for me makes it even more like, yes, we've always been powerful
mm.
when we get the clarity
Yeah,
and when we surrender those two
yeah,
things you said.
yeah. I love it. And you're completely right. It's the power has always been there because that's also the same power we use to create the anxiety, the need to want something and it has to happen, you know? So it's all about the shifting part. And that's why I love your story because it's you kind of nail it down that when did you really realize something needs to be changed, you know? Because I didn't realize it then. I just knew that I don't give a shit anymore. I don't want
Mhm.
to feel this anymore. I can be alone. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite amazing actually.
I was going to say something about that attitude you had too. I'm
Mhm.
fine being alone, right? It's a lot of times we all can have similar attitude on the surface, but
Mhm.
the meaning of it could mean different things. Because I had a bit of that attitude back then before I knew about the law of assumption. But
Mhm.
mine was more from a place of bitterness, not necessarily surrender. Yours
Mhm.
was more like, I surrender. This is my
Mhm.
list. I'm
Mhm.
trusting. Mine at the time was more like, I don't think there are any good men left anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
fine being I'm
Yeah.
fine being single forever.
Yeah.
Kind of attitude that I knew was like, yeah, I'm not being honest with myself here.
Uh,
So
but I think that I was beyond bitterness. I think I was bitter so much so
yeah.
that it was like, not worth it. I'm not doing this anymore.
And would you say then that maybe even that attitude isn't completely um it doesn't mean that you won't get what you want. It's okay to be in that attitude, at least when it's happening.
I think because for me, it wasn't consciously in a way where I was trying to manifest something according to the law of assumption. I wasn't imagining or whatever. I just knew that I wanted to feel the relief. I was done of feeling
Mm.
the tension, and for me, it becomes so physical.
Ah,
I wanted to feel the relief. So,
I love that you gave me more
mhm,
clarity. So
mhm.
even so you felt the bitterness, and then I like
Yes.
how you said you went beyond the bitterness
Hmm.
to the I'm just done. I'm
Yeah.
tired of feeling this way. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it up. And for me, before I knew about the law, way before I even surrender because of the pain,
Hmm.
when I had the bitterness, I did not want to let go of the
Yeah.
bitterness, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna feel it
Yeah.
until the pain came, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I got to release this.
Can we just pause there for a minute and
Yeah.
go deeper about not wanting to let go of the bitterness? Because that I can recognize in other areas of my life
Mm,
where I'm like still stubborn. I can feel the bitterness, the anger, and why isn't this happening yet? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know what? I know it's about relief. I know I need to just trust. But I have this tiny feeling, and I love that you said it because this makes me confess in front of everybody that's listening that I am still holding on to some type of ego that's like, oh no, I'm not gonna give up yet. Can you talk
mm-hmm.
about that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I'm like having tingling in my body. Like this is a pretty deep topic, but maybe we'll need even part two for this topic. Yeah. Holding on to the bitterness at the time for me was because I thought at least I'm right. At least, at least I have a good reason for
Mm,
deciding that I'm going to
mm.
be single forever. It's hitting you. The pride, right? The ego, like you're
Yes.
saying. At least I can prove to the world that I'm right.
Yep,
That was, I think, what was going on.
that's what's going on. You nailed it. I just felt it. It's like, for me, if I had to paint it, it's a small child who wants to revenge on the world.
Mm.
Like I do exist. I am here
Ah,
and I
because
do
at least you
deserve
have a
love.
voice.
Yes,
Because at least even in the bitterness, you have a voice. If you let go of
exactly.
that.
Exactly. Exactly. And I love this. It's going to make me cry because what I just noticed is that love is, if we would characterize love, it's just there watching and waiting to hug you, to realize this moment. Like it's okay. Because that's why you're bitter, because you want that love so much.
Yeah.
It's just that the way you've been going hasn't been the most optimal way of going.
Mm.
For somebody who's there, what would you give advice? What would your advice be?
You mean there as in they want to manifest love, or would you say they're holding
Yeah,
on to? the bitterness and things like
Both
that.
of it, because they did
Yeah,
many
they
times.
connected.
Yeah, exactly. They're connected because sometimes
Yeah,
the front face is I want to manifest somebody I love, but then
yeah,
when you dive deeper with the coaching, you realize that, but you kind of hold on to a state that's not
yeah,
benefiting you the way you want. So what?
yeah.
How would you tackle that, or what would you do?
Yeah, no, and again, it goes back to even my own journey. When I started reading about the law of assumption, I remember thinking, holy cow, I'm holding on to certain things that haven't been serving me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep reading the law. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
ready to let go, but
Oh,
I'm going to keep reading.
because that's gonna make me ready when I'm perfect.
And I always tell my clients, you've
Mm-hmm.
got to be radically honest with
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, baby.
They like, because if you're not, the game of lying to ourselves, I mean, I've played that game, right? BSing my way into like, or gaslighting myself.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing myself. You know,
I've done it. I
yeah.
can recognize it when I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's almost like it's funny, right? It's because I'm like, okay, I made them. Are you gonna keep going this route,
Mm-hmm.
playing you know, the card of I don't know what's really going on,
Yeah.
or are you gonna be like, stop the BSing and be
Yeah.
honest?
Yeah.
If you're not ready, you're not ready.
Yeah.
At least
Exactly.
you're honest.
Exactly.
And I think that really helped me when I started the journey with the law of assumption. Be
Mm.
radically honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're reading the law, you're hearing powerful people speak about it, like me, like you, like can
Mm.
they see? If you don't believe it,
Mm.
say you don't believe it to yourself
Mm. Mm.
yet. That,
Yeah.
but you're willing to learn,
Yeah.
right? So I would say radical honesty is the starting point, and from there,
Yeah.
inspiration will come,
Yeah.
clarity will come, what to
Mm.
do next will come.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point for me, I was ready. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna let go of my old ways.
Mm-hmm.
I know in my heart they don't. I'm ready. They don't serve me
Mm-hmm.
anymore,
Yeah, I
and
think
the
that's the
shift
key.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah, you're completely right, and I completely agree with you. Even though we would explain it or describe it differently, depending on who's talking about it, I
Yeah,
think that's the key. It's like you're ready for change, because the opposite would be, let's say you don't have any bitterness, is that you actually have the clarity to know exactly what you want. You know exactly what
yeah,
you want. You know exactly which stage to shift into. You
yeah,
know exactly which scenery to imagine for yourself, or at least for me, I lean more into what you just said, is to let go
yeah,
of the pain, let go of the
yeah,
bitterness, let go of the
yeah,
forcing yourself to become something that you don't even know how to do. You
yeah,
do know, imagine with your imagination, but maybe you can't describe it. Maybe that's not your way of speaking about it. So,
yeah,
I completely agree with you.
yeah,
Because in in my case, there was the same thing, and I wouldn't actually know how to um, manifest my SP back if it's needed, or a new SP. I wouldn't know,
mm,
to be honest with you. I think I would go the same way.
yeah,
Um, so it's the radical honesty, because it's okay that we feel the way we feel, that we think the way we think. But when we accept that, when we accept that within ourselves, we can move on.